Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with an extraordinary collection of keyboard music by that greatest of all 18th century keyboard composers after J.S. Bach. We're talking CPE Bach. In fact, in his day, CPE Bach was considered a greater master of keyboard music than J.S. Bach, and with good reason. It was his specialty, first of all, and second of all, he was vastly more influential than his dad, particularly on the composers of North Germany and the First Viennese School, that is Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven, all of whom admired CPE Bach tremendously. The disc in question is on the Capriccio label, and it is this one. It features crack harpsichordist Christine Schornsheim, who is absolutely just marvelous. I mean, she's done a bunch of recordings for Capriccio. She's done all the Haydn piano sonatas. She's done the Well-Tempered Clavier and the Goldberg Variations and all kinds of earlier music. She's really, really good. Really exceptionally good. And this enterprising disc consists entirely of rondos and fantasias. And that's what makes this so much fun. You know, CPE Bach is known for his keyboard sonatas, and he was one of the great pioneers in the art of sonata composition, and he wrote a couple hundred of them, so God knows there's enough to choose from. But he also wrote keyboard works in other media, in other forms. Now, all of the rondos and fantasias in this set, on this disc, come from his 6 sets of keyboard works, which he called For Tenor und Liebhaber. That translates into connoisseurs and amateurs. It works very well in French and in English. The Tenor und Liebhaber sets were the greatest keyboard collections that CPE Bach published in his lifetime. He was a self-publishing industry. He really was. I mean, he spent most of his career after his Berlin period, where he worked for Frederick the Great, in the city of Hamburg, where he was in charge of church music, like his dad was, except that he really didn't care about church music, and neither did anyone else in Hamburg. And so he basically went into this publishing business, and he wrote keyboard and other works, published them in association with Breitkopf and Hartel or some of those people, and sold them himself by subscription and made quite a good living doing it. These works are all discussed in this shameless plug time, my book on CPE Bach. It's called A Listener's Guide to the Other Bach. And I haven't done a plug of one of my books in a long time, so I don't feel terribly guilty recommending this one. You know, CPE was an amazing composer. He really was. Just an extraordinary composer. And I have no problem at all suggesting that if you're interested in his work, that you get this, because it will give you a guide to just about everything that he did. And particularly it will organize the hundreds and hundreds of keyboard pieces into some sort of digestible form. And it comes with a CD, and it has samples, and hopefully it's still there. I don't know what's going on with the world of publications lately. It's almost as messed up as the world of classical music CDs. But let's talk about these rondos and fantasias. Every one of these 6 books of Tenor und Liebhaber pieces has some of them, not all of them. They consist of sonatas, rondos, and fantasias. You get a mix in each one. And the fantasia in Bach's hand was very similar to the fantasy or toccata in Johann Sebastian Bach's hand. That is, it would show off the keyboard prowess of the performer by having lots of exciting rushing passages and scale figurations and doodads and ornamental things, all taking shape around some sort of central tune or theme. In Bach's case, the older Bach's case, it would be followed by a fugue. In CPE Bach's case, the fantasy was a freestanding work all by itself. But the whole point was that it should capture the idea of an improvisation. It's basically a written out improvisation. And in this particular disc, I want to play you a sample, because I can do this with Capriccio. The fantasy number 1 in E flat, which is Wodken, let's see, what is this, 58, number 6. That means it's the last one in the first collection of, not the first collection, in the Wodken 58 collection of Kenner und Liebhaber pieces. The Wodken numbers for the Kenner and Liebhaber collections are 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 61. Those are the Kenner and Liebhaber collections, and each one I think has six or seven pieces, something like that. I can go back and check. It's in the book, but I didn't look before I decided to do this little talk. Anyway, not the least of the glories of this particular recital by Christine Schornsheim is the instrument she has chosen. This is one of those discs that proves my contention that there's nothing wrong with period instruments. The problem is the period instruments. You got to know how to pick them. So many of our period instrument performers choose instruments which may be authentic replicas of something that existed somewhere sometime, but they just sound like hell. And why would you want to play something that sounds like hell? You can be absolutely sure that most of the instruments built back in the day sounded like garbage, and there's no reason we need to put up with that. I myself have been, privileged to have the opportunity to play and sample many, many historical keyboard instruments, and I've played on some of them that are gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous, but one listens in vain for recordings by major keyboardists that have instruments that have the same beautiful tone production and timbral qualities as some of the instruments I've seen. You got to want to do it. You have to care enough. You have to think that ugliness was not the goal of early musicians. In any case, she's playing, wait a minute, I got the thing here, on a tangent piano, a Tangentflügel, that's hanging out in the Schloss Bad Krozingen, wherever the hell that is in Germany. And this is just the coolest sounding instrument. Now, a tangent piano is kind of a cross between a piano and a harpsichord. It doesn't have quills plucking the strings like a harpsichord, but it doesn't have hammers with felt whacking the strings like a piano. It has wooden sticks called tangents. And these tangents are sort of arranged however they're arranged, and you push the key and it goes whack and it hits the string. And you get really, in a way, a hybrid between a harpsichord and a piano. It has something of the harpsichord's sharpness of attack and a bit of the piano's range of dynamics. And this particular gizmo that she's playing on has, a harp stop. They have optional contraptions and courses of strings that you could add or take away to change the sound. And I just love the sound of this particular instrument. It has a wonderful, again, harp-like sort of liquid sound. It's wonderful in passage work because it can render thickets of notes with complete crispness like a harpsichord, but with some of the mellowness and luminosity of piano tone. Just listen to this. This is the Fantasia in E-flat major from Wodken 58, number 6. It is gorgeous. Isn't that just beautiful? It's an exquisite sonority and somehow very, very right for this music. And Schornsheim explains in the very, very extensive booklet notes that she chose to do a whole selection of fantasias and rondos from these Kenner and Liebhaber collections because, people play the sonatas or they do complete collections, but she wanted to focus on these other works in the medium because they're just as marvelous as CPE Bach's sonatas, as I think you just heard. And I want to play you some samples from the rondos as well. Now, a rondo in the classical sense, in the slightly later sense, because CPE Bach was working in the 1740s through the 1780s, basically. But a rondo in the classical sense of Haydn and Mozart and Beethoven was a piece in A-B-A-C-A form. It would have thus A-B-A-C-A, 5 sections. It could have more. It could go on forever. It could be A-B-A-C-A-D-A-E-A-F-A-G-A, as long as you have a ritornello, something that keeps coming back. And then you have episodes in the middle. Now, in the classical period, these episodes became very developmental as the form became mixed with the nascent sonata form. That is, you would have a first theme and a second theme and a development section, and all of these could be shoved into the format of the rondo. The classic example of this, if you want to hear one, it would be something like the finale of Haydn's 88th Symphony, which is a perfect 5-section rondo, but it's monothematic. It's all based on the same theme. And in between statements of the initial theme or ritornello, you have episodes, material that's either developmental or based on new material or something else. CPE Bach's rondos, his idea of the rondo is very different because his rondo theme generally is extremely short, and he has lots of episodes, which are improvisatory passages that come between the restatements of the theme. And the theme itself can be varied on its restatement. So you get a combination of variations and improvisations with lots of episodes and lots of recurrences of the teeny little rondo theme. It's an absolutely marvelous little form that CPE Bach really made his own. And I want to play you one of the more sensitive and delicate ones. This is the one in A minor, which is in this collection. Let me see if I can find, there it is. It's Wodken 56, number 5. And it's really very, very desolate and oddly, I don't know, it's evocative and disturbing, and it kind of gets under your skin. And I play you a minute or two of it so you can get a sense of how the rondo theme comes back and then it does something else, and you hear the recurrence of the theme and get a sort of sense of how the form is going to take shape. Here it is. Now, CPE Bach was known for his Empfindsamkeit works. The Empfindsam are still the emotional or affecting style, because you never know where his music was going to go, and the emotional variety is huge, and a lot of it was very, very sad or tragic. But he also could be extremely funny. This is something that Haydn got his hands on. And some of these rondos are incredibly amusing and incredibly quirky. You have no idea where they're going to go, and it's really kind of fascinating to hear what's happening. The unpredictability is marvelous and often very humorous. I want to conclude with a little sample of the Rondo in F major. This is Wotken. Let's see which one is this. 57, number 5. From the Kenner and Liebhaber collection. And this one is just a jolly little thing that is completely unpredictable in how it's going to run out, work out. It's so quirky. It's so much fun. Here is the Rondo in F major, a couple minutes of that, so you get a sense of a happy rondo as well as the more pensive variety. Marvelous music, isn't it? Really totally original. I mean, CPE Bach was known in his day as an original genius, as somebody who would take the field of music and boldly go where no one has gone before. And that is exactly what he did. And in this wonderful collection featuring Christine Schornsheim on Capriccio, you can really hear him going there. It's a fabulous, fabulous way to get to know his work in a condensed form, in an easily listenable form, on a disc that's 70 some odd minutes, lots of music, lots of variety. It's just great stuff. And so if you're building your keyboard collection and you're curious about CPE Bach and what made him special and unique and interesting, I cannot recommend strongly enough that you get this particular collection. It's fantastic in every way. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy your CPE.